Subscribe to Storylab for more stories. Now, let's begin this one. Chapter 1. The Quiet Life. Eric Boyd's hands were steady as he flipped pancakes on the griddle, a skill that had nothing to do with his 22 years in the CIA and everything to do with being a single father. The kitchen of his modest ranch house in suburban Virginia smelled like butter and vanilla, a far cry from the dank interrogation rooms in black sites across 3 continents. "Dad, you're doing that thing again," his daughter Sadie called from the dining table, not looking up from her history textbook. Mercedes Boyd, Sadie to everyone who mattered, was 15, whip-smart, and possessed an unsettling ability to read people that Eric recognized as his own. "What thing?" Eric asked, sliding 2 perfect pancakes onto a plate. "That thing where you're thinking about the past, but pretending you're not." Eric smiled despite himself. 3 years since retiring from the agency, 2 years since Kitty had left, and Sadie could still see through him like glass. He brought her breakfast to the table and sat across from her, studying his daughter. She had his dark eyes and sharp features, but her mother's auburn hair and delicate chin. The combination made her striking, and Eric had already scared off 2 boys at her high school with nothing more than a meaningful look. "Your mom called yesterday," Eric said carefully. "She wants you to come to dinner Friday night." Sadie's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "With him. Logan will be there, yes." "Pass." She returned to her textbook, her tone making it clear the subject was closed. Eric sipped his coffee and didn't push. Kitty Boyd, now Kitty Cross, after a quick remarriage that still made Eric's stomach turn, had been bringing Logan York around for 8 months now. The man was 42, owned a successful chain of auto body shops across 3 states, and had a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Eric had run an unofficial background check within a week of meeting him. Clean record, good credit, no obvious red flags. But something about Logan made Eric's instincts honed in the world's darkest corners, prickle with warning. "How's school?" Eric asked, changing the subject. "Fine. Mr. Holloway wants to talk to you about my application to Georgetown." Nestor Holloway wasn't just Sadie's guidance counselor. He was also Eric's former handler at the agency, the man who'd recruited him at 23 and retired him at 45 with a pension, a commendation buried in classified files, and a handshake that said, "Forget everything you know." Nestor had transitioned to civilian life more smoothly than Eric, trading field ops for helping teenagers navigate college applications. "I'll stop by this week," Eric promised. The doorbell rang. Eric's eyes flicked to the clock, 7:23 a.m. Too early for solicitors, wrong day for mail. His body tensed reflexively, and he noticed Sadie notice it. "Probably Mrs. Fisher," Sadie said. She mentioned bringing by some casserole. Valerie Fisher from next door was a widow who decided Eric needed feeding and Sadie needed mothering, though both Boyds politely resisted her efforts. Eric rose and moved to the door, his mind automatically cataloging the layout of his home, the positions of every potential weapon, the exits. Old habits. Through the peephole, he saw Logan York standing on his porch in an expensive suit, shifting his weight like a boxer before a bell. Eric opened the door halfway. "Logan." "Eric." Logan's smile was wide and artificial. "Hope I'm not interrupting breakfast. I was in the neighborhood, got a new shop opening in Sterling. Thought I'd drop by. Sadie's getting ready for school. Actually, I want to talk to you." Logan's voice dropped, took on an edge. "About Kitty, and about boundaries." Eric's expression didn't change, but he felt that old familiar coldness seep into his chest, the same feeling he got when a subject in a chair started lying. "This isn't the time or place." "When is?" Logan stepped closer, and Eric could smell expensive cologne mixed with something else. Aggression, testosterone, the pheromones of a man trying to establish dominance. "You keep filling Sadie's head with poison about me." Kitty's concerned. "Sadie makes her own decisions. She's 15. She doesn't know what's good for her." Logan's smile finally dropped. "You had your chance with Kitty, old man. You blew it. She's mine now, and that girl in there." He nodded toward the house. "She needs to accept that her mother has moved on." Eric felt his hands relax, his breathing slow. It was the opposite of anger. It was the cold, methodical calm that had made him one of the agency's most effective interrogators. When other operators lost their tempers, Eric found his center. "Are we done here?" Eric asked quietly. Something in his tone made Logan hesitate, just for a second. Then the younger man's bravado returned. "We're done when I say we're done. You need to." "Dad!" Sadie appeared behind Eric, backpack slung over one shoulder. "Everything okay?" Logan's face transformed instantly, the threatening mask replaced with that practiced smile. "Hey, Sadie, just having a chat with your old man. Your mom and I would love to have you over Friday. She's making that pasta you like." "I'm busy Friday," Sadie said flatly. "Sadie, every Friday. Forever." She turned to Eric. "Ready?" Eric nodded and stepped outside, forcing Logan to step back. He locked the door and guided Sadie toward his truck, a 10-year-old Ford F-150 that started every time and drew no attention. "What did he want?" Sadie asked once they were inside. "To establish territory," Eric said, starting the engine. "He's an asshole." "Language." "He's a jerk," she corrected, and Eric couldn't help but smile. Mom really picked a winner this time. Eric navigated the quiet suburban streets towards Sadie's high school. "Your mother's trying to be happy. Is she? Because she seems pretty miserable every time I see her. And that guy." Sadie trailed off, looking out the window. "There's something wrong with him, Dad. Like really wrong." "What do you mean?" "I don't know. Just a feeling. The way he looks at people when he thinks they're not watching. The way he talks about money, about people owing him things." She turned to face Eric. "You feel it too. I can tell." Eric pulled into the school parking lot and put the truck in park. He looked at his daughter, seeing not the child she'd been, but the woman she was becoming. Perceptive, brave, unshakable. "I do feel it, but feelings aren't facts. If something happens, if you're ever uncomfortable, I'll call you." "I know." She leaned over and kissed his cheek. "Love you, Dad." "Love you too, kiddo." He watched her walk into the school, straight-backed and confident, and felt that familiar ache of pride mixed with fear. The world was full of men like Logan York, predators who hid behind smiles and success. Eric had spent 2 decades learning how to break such men, how to reach into their heads and pull out their secrets and their sins. But that was over now. He was just a father trying to raise his daughter right. At least, that's what he kept telling himself. Chapter 2. Fractures. The call came 3 weeks later at 2:17 a.m. Eric was awake instantly, phone in hand before the second ring, his mind cataloging threat levels before he even saw the caller ID. Kitty's number glowed on the screen. "What's wrong?" No pleasantries. Middle of the night, calls meant crisis. "Eric, I need you to talk to Sadie." Kitty's voice was tight, stressed. "She's refusing to even try with Logan. She won't come over. She barely speaks to me. And tonight at dinner." "Why are you calling me at 2 in the morning about dinner?" "Because Logan is tired of being disrespected. He's done everything to connect with her, and she treats him like he's..." At 2 in the morning, Kitty. Eric sat up, fully alert now. "What happened? Where's Sadie?" "She's here. Safe. She's sleeping in the guest room." A pause. "We had a fight. A bad one." Eric was already out of bed, pulling on jeans. "What kind of fight?" Logan tried to. He was setting boundaries. "About curfew, about respect in his house. Our house." Sadie said some things, he responded, and it escalated. "Did he touch her?" "No." "Jesus, Eric, no. He just raised his voice, and she called you, and you showed up like some kind of..." "I didn't show up anywhere. I'm at home." "You what?" Confusion bled into Kitty's voice. "But Sadie said she was going to call you," and Logan thought. "Put her on the phone. She's asleep." "Kitty, put my daughter on the phone. Now." He heard whispered conversation, footsteps, a door opening. Then Sadie's voice, carefully controlled, but with an undertone Eric recognized as fear. "Hey, Dad, what happened?" Logan got mad because I wouldn't call him by his first name. He wants me to stop saying Mom's husband and start saying Logan like we're buddies or something. She was speaking quietly, probably not wanting to be overheard. He started yelling about respect, about how he pays for things, how I need to accept reality. Mom tried to calm him down, but he just got louder. Then he got in my face and told me I was a spoiled brat who needed to learn her place. Eric's hand tightened on the phone. "Did he threaten you?" "Not exactly. But, Dad, the way he looked at me. It was like he wanted to, like he was thinking about it. I'm coming to get you. It's 2 a.m. Mom will freak out. I'm okay. I'm locked in the guest room. I just wanted you to know what happened. Eric forced himself to breathe slowly, to think tactically. Charging over there in the middle of the night would escalate the situation, make him look unstable, give Logan ammunition. You keep that door locked. Your phone stays on. Anything happens, you call 911 first, me second. Understand? I understand. I'll be there at 7 to pick you up. Tell your mother you're leaving. He heard Sadie's relieved exhale. Okay. Thanks, Dad. Put your mother back on. Eric. Kitty's voice was defensive now. 7 a.m. I'm picking up Sadie. This arrangement isn't working. She needs to learn to adapt. We're a family now, and you're a family. Sadie and I are a family. Those are two separate things. That's exactly the attitude that's causing problems. You're poisoning her against Logan, against me trying to have a life. Did you know he got her face? Did you know he scared her? He was frustrated. You know how stubborn she can be, how much she's like, Kitty stopped herself. Like me, Eric finished. That's what you were going to say. I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did. And you know what? I'll take it as a compliment. Because I taught her to trust her instincts, to stand up for herself, to not accept abuse from anyone, even from her mother's husband. It's not abuse to expect basic respect. It's abuse when a grown man gets in a teenage girl's face and intimidates her because she won't play happy family. Silence stretched between them, filled with 2 years of resentment and recrimination. Eric remembered when Kitty had been his anchor, the person who pulled him back from the darkness of his work. But somewhere in the last years of his career, she'd stopped being able to handle what he'd done. The classified deployments that meant weeks of no contact. The nights he woke up gasping, remembering faces and screams. The way he'd sometimes look at her with eyes that had seen too much of humanity's worst. She'd left the day after his retirement party, told him she'd waited until he was safe to go, that she couldn't do it anymore. 6 months later, Logan York was posting couple photos on social media, his arm around Kitty at restaurants Eric couldn't afford on his pension. 7 a.m., Eric repeated, "Have her ready." He ended the call and sat in the darkness of his bedroom, his mind working through scenarios. Logan York, 42 years old, never married, no kids, built a business from nothing in 15 years. On paper, a success story. But Eric hadn't survived 2 decades in the world's worst places by trusting paper. At his desk, he opened his laptop and began to dig deeper. Logan York had grown up in Philadelphia, son of a mechanic who died when Logan was 19. Mother was in a nursing home in Allentown, Alzheimer's. No siblings. His first auto body shop opened when he was 27, backed by a loan from an LLC that Eric's initial check hadn't traced back. Within 3 years, he had 2 more shops. Within 10, he had 15 across Virginia, Maryland, and Pennsylvania. The growth pattern was unusual. Most businesses that expanded that fast had external funding, venture capital, angel investors, family money. Logan's publicly available financials showed bank loans and reinvested profits. But the math didn't quite work. Eric had interrogated enough money launderers and fraudsters to recognize when someone's wealth didn't match their paper trail. He spent the next 4 hours going deeper, using access credentials that technically he shouldn't still have, but that no one had thought to revoke. By 6 a.m., he had a picture that made his jaw clench. Logan York's auto body shops were legitimate businesses. But 3 of them, one in Baltimore, one in Richmond, one in Harrisburg, had been investigated for insurance fraud. No charges filed, but the investigations had generated paperwork. Cars being declared totaled that were actually reparable. Repair costs inflated. Kickbacks to insurance adjusters. The kind of scheme that made good money if you were willing to cross ethical lines. But there was more. Logan had been questioned as a witness in 2 cases involving stolen vehicles. Both times, cars had passed through his shops just before being resold with clean titles. Again, no charges. Logan had cooperated fully, played the innocent businessman victimized by criminal employees. Too many coincidences. Too many investigations that went nowhere. Eric sat back, thinking, a man who straddled the line between legal and illegal, who'd built success on questionable foundations, who was good at talking his way out of trouble. And now that man was in his daughter's life, yelling at her, intimidating her. His phone buzzed. A text from Sadie. Mom's freaking out. Says you're overreacting. Logan's acting all hurt and misunderstood. It's gross. Can't wait to get out of here. Eric texted back. 20 minutes. Stay in your room. He dressed carefully. Jeans, a plain t-shirt, a light jacket to conceal the Glock 19 he slipped into his waistband. He didn't expect trouble, but 22 years had taught him that trouble rarely announced itself. The drive to Kitty's house, Logan's house now, technically, took 15 minutes through quiet morning streets. It was a McMansion in a new development, all fake stone facades and 3-car garages, the kind of place that screamed new money. Logan's black BMW sat in the driveway next to Kitty's white Lexus, another recent upgrade from the sensible Honda she'd driven when married to Eric. He knocked instead of ringing the bell. Sadie opened the door immediately, backpack already on, relief evident in her eyes. Hey, Dad. Ready. So ready. Sadie, wait. Kitty appeared behind her, looking exhausted in a silk robe, her hair, still auburn and beautiful at 43, pulled back in a messy ponytail. Eric, come in. Let's talk about this like adults. Nothing to talk about. Sadie's coming home. This is about Logan, isn't it? You've never given him a fair chance. You've been undermining me since day one. Morning, Eric. Logan appeared at the top of the stairs, wearing sweatpants and a tight t-shirt that showed off his gym-built physique. His smile was sharp. Didn't expect the cavalry at dawn. Eric looked at him with the flat, empty gaze he'd perfected in interrogation rooms. My daughter called. I came. That's how it works. Your daughter is dramatic. Logan descended the stairs with deliberate casualness. She's 15. Everything is a crisis. Interesting perspective from someone who got at her face and intimidated her. I spoke firmly. There's a difference. Maybe if you'd done more of that, she'd have better manners. The air temperature seemed to drop. Sadie moved closer to Eric, and Kitty put a hand on Logan's arm, warning. Logan, please. No, babe, he needs to hear this. Logan shook her off, his eyes locked on Eric. You had your chance to be a husband and father. You failed at both. Your wife left you because you're a cold, emotionally unavailable relic who can't function in the real world. Your daughter is going to learn that you're not some hero. You're just a washed-up government worker with a pension and no future. Eric felt Sadie tense beside him. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. We're leaving now. Sadie, car. That's it. Logan laughed. That's all you got? I insult you to your face, and you just slink away? No wonder Kitty upgraded. Eric turned to face Logan fully for the first time. I don't need to defend myself to you. I don't need to explain myself to you. I don't need to acknowledge you at all. You're nothing to me. A temporary inconvenience in my daughter's life. In 5 years, she'll be in college, and you'll be a bad memory she laughs about with her therapist. Logan's face flushed. Get the hell out of my house. Gladly. Sadie. They turned to leave. Eric's hand was on the doorknob when Logan spoke again, his voice dripping with contempt. You know what Kitty told me? About your time in the CIA? Logan stepped closer. That you were just a glorified secretary. Paperwork and briefings. She said you've built up this mystique, this tough guy act, but that you were basically a bureaucrat playing dress up. That the closest you got to action was a paper cut. Eric paused, turned his head slightly, not looking at Logan, but not moving forward either. Logan, stop, Kitty whispered. You don't know. What? What don't I know? That he's been feeding everyone lies about being some kind of badass? Please, look at him. He's just an old man with delusions of grandeur. Eric felt something cold and familiar settle into his bones. It was the feeling he got when a subject broke, when they revealed everything and understood, too late, that they'd miscalculated everything. He turned back to face Logan York. Kitty's right. You don't know, and you should pray it stays that way. Is that a threat? No, just a fact. Eric guided Sadie out the door. As they reached his truck, he heard Logan shout after them. You're pathetic, Boyd. Both of you. In the truck, Sadie buckled her seatbelt with shaking hands. I hate him. I really, really hate him. I know. Mom's an idiot for being with him. Your mother is trying to find happiness. We can't fault her for that. even when she chooses a psycho? Eric started the engine, his mind already working through implications and possibilities. Logan York wasn't just an asshole. He was something worse, a predator who'd sensed weakness and was now circling. The insults, the provocations, the way he'd tried to dominate Eric in his own house. These weren't random acts. They were testing, probing. Dad, Sadie's voice was small. Is he dangerous? Eric thought about the insurance fraud, the stolen cars, the investigations that went nowhere. He thought about Logan's aggression, his need to dominate, his willingness to intimidate a teenage girl to establish power. I don't know yet, Eric said honestly, but I'm going to find out. Chapter 3, Broken Locks. The call from Nestor Holloway came 2 days later. Eric was in his garage, organizing tools he rarely used, when his old handler's number flashed on his phone. Boyd, how retired are you these days? Fully. What? Because I just got a very interesting inquiry through back channels. Someone's been digging into your classified record. Or trying to. They hit the first firewall and got flagged. Eric straightened, his full attention engaged. Who? Don't know yet. But it originated from a commercial background check service. The kind wealthy paranoids use when they want to investigate someone. Whoever put in the request knows enough about you to be asking the right questions, but not enough to know those questions can't be answered. Logan York, the boyfriend. Nestor had heard all about Eric's domestic situation over coffee the previous week. He's poking the bear. He's trying to prove I'm nobody. That I was exaggerating my career to look important. Well, he's about to learn otherwise. The flag will generate a visit from very serious people asking very serious questions. You want me to run interference? Eric thought about it. Logan getting visited by federal agents might actually be useful. No, let play out. But Nestor, do me a favor. Check into Logan York. Deep check. Everything you can find without tripping any official wires. You think he's dirty? I think he's something. I just don't know what yet. I'll call you in 48 hours. Eric went back into the house, his mind churning. Logan investigating him was escalation. It meant the man wasn't just an asshole boyfriend. He was actively trying to gather leverage, to find weaknesses. That level of paranoia suggested someone with secrets, someone used to defending their territory through information. He was cooking dinner, meatloaf, mashed potatoes, Sadie's favorites, when his phone rang again. Kitty, hysterical. Eric, oh God. Eric, Logan's at your house. Everything stopped. What? He went there to talk to you, to try to smooth things over, and you weren't home, but the door was open and Eric was already moving, phone clamped to his ear, grabbing his keys. Where's Sadie? She's there. She came home from school, and Logan's there, and Eric, he's really angry. He didn't remember getting in the truck, didn't remember the drive. His entire being focused down to a single purpose, protect Sadie. His hands were steady on the wheel, his breathing controlled. But inside, something primal and terrible was awakening. He'd never told Kitty the truth about his work. He'd let her believe the lie that yes, he'd exaggerated his importance, that he'd been a glorified analyst with occasional field work. It was easier than explaining that for 22 years, he'd been the man they called when they needed someone broken without being touched, when they needed to reach into another human's soul and pull out secrets that could save or end lives. They'd called him the surgeon because of his precision, because he never left marks, because his subjects talked, eventually, inevitably, completely. And now Logan York, small-time fraudster, wannabe tough guy, intimidator of teenage girls, had walked into Eric Boyd's home uninvited. Eric's street appeared quiet. No police, no ambulances. His house looked undisturbed from the outside. He parked curbside and approached carefully, noting immediately that his front door was indeed unlocked, the doorframe slightly splintered where it had been forced. He pulled his Glock and entered silently. His living room was intact, kitchen empty. Then he heard voices from the back of the house, the hallway that led to bedrooms. Logan's voice, loud and aggressive. Pathetic old man thinks he can intimidate me? He has no idea who he's fucking with. You need to leave. Sadie's voice, trying to sound brave, but trembling. My dad's gonna be home soon in... Good. Let him come. I'm tired of his bullshit. Tired of you acting like I'm some kind of villain when all I want is for your mother to be happy. Eric moved down the hall, silent as a shadow. Through Sadie's open bedroom door, he saw Logan standing in the center of the room, his back to the door. Sadie was pressed against her desk, phone in her hand. Her eyes flicked to the doorway and saw Eric. Relief flooded her face. Logan noticed. He spun, and for a moment he saw Eric standing there, Glock held low and ready. "Oh, you gonna shoot me?" Logan laughed, but there was a manic edge to it. "For what? Standing in your house? Having a conversation? You broke into my home. Door was open. I knocked. No one answered. I was concerned and... You're lying." Eric's voice was flat, matter of fact. "The door was locked. You forced it. There's a splinter on your right shoe." Logan looked down involuntarily, saw the evidence. When he looked back up, his expression had changed. Something uglier beneath the surface. "So what? You gonna shoot an unarmed man in front of your daughter? That'll go well at the custody hearing." "There's no custody hearing. Sadie's 16 in 2 months. Old enough to choose. And she's chosen. We'll see about that." Logan pulled something from his jacket pocket. A folding knife, 4-inch blade, the kind you could buy at any hardware store. "You know what? I'm tired of playing nice. Tired of pretending I respect you. Your whole life is bullshit, Boyd. Your career, your tough guy act, all of it. You're nothing. And you know what's funny? Kitty knows it too. She laughs about you. About how you pretend to be something you're not. Put the knife down, Logan. Or what?" Logan was escalating now, feeding on his own adrenaline. "You'll shoot me? You don't have the balls. You're just a pathetic old man living in the past." He moved towards Sadie. Eric's gun came up. "Stop." Logan laughed again, that manic edge growing. "Your daddy's a pathetic old man," he said to Sadie, taking another step. "That's all he is. All he'll ever be." Sadie looked at Logan, then at her father. Something passed between them. Understanding, trust, permission. She smiled, and it was Eric's smile, cold and knowing. "Daddy," she said quietly, "show him who you really are." Logan stopped laughing when he saw what was in Eric's other hand. A syringe. A small vial. The items he'd retrieved from his bedside drawer, while Logan had been ranting, his CIA-trained muscle memory guiding him through the motion. "What the fuck is that?" Logan's voice wavered. "Midazolam," Eric said calmly, advancing. "Sedative. Fast-acting. Used in hospitals for minor procedures. I keep it for emergencies." "You're fucking insane." Logan lunged with the knife, a wild, untrained slash. Eric sidestepped effortlessly, caught Logan's wrist, twisted until the knife clattered to the floor. In the same motion, he had Logan in a control hold, the man's arm wrenched behind his back, the syringe at his neck. "Sadie," Eric said quietly, "go next door to Mrs. Fisher's house. Call 911. Tell them there's been a home invasion. Stay there until the police arrive." "Dad, now!" She ran. Logan struggled, cursing, threatening. Eric held him with minimal effort, his mind calculating dosage, time, legality. This was the edge. He could inject Logan, put him under, wait for police. Self-defense. Home invasion. Protecting his daughter. Or he could do what his training screamed at him to do. What 22 years of dealing with men, worse than Logan York, had taught him. He could take this man to a place where lies lived, where secrets hid, where the truth came out in screams or whispers. "You made a mistake," Eric said softly into Logan's ear. "You came into my home. You threatened my daughter. And now I'm going to show you exactly what I am. Fuck you. I'll sue you. I'll press charges. The needle entered Logan's neck. The plunger depressed. Midazolam flooded Logan's system. "What did you do? What the fuck did you?" Logan's legs buckled. Eric guided him down to the floor, checked his pulse and respiration. Stable. Unconscious but safe. Then Eric began to work. By the time the police arrived 10 minutes later, Logan York was duct-taped to a chair in Eric's garage, still unconscious, his knife bagged as evidence on the kitchen counter. Eric's statement was clear, precise, backed by physical evidence and Sadie's testimony. Logan had broken in, threatened them with a weapon. Eric had defended his home and daughter. The forced door, the knife, Logan's presence uninvited, all pointed to a crime. But Logan wasn't arrested. His lawyer arrived within an hour, a slick operator named Maxwell Allison who specialized in making problems disappear. Stories changed. Logan claimed misunderstanding, said he'd been invited, that the door had been open, that Eric had assaulted him. Eric watched this performance from his porch as paramedics checked Logan for injuries. None. Eric had been careful, and police took statements. He saw Maxwell Allison whisper in the detective's ear, saw money and influence work their magic. No charges filed against Logan. But also, critically, no charges filed against Eric. We're calling this a mutual misunderstanding, Detective Regina Mitchell told Eric privately. She was mid-40s, sharp-eyed, and Eric could tell she didn't believe a word of Logan's story. But Boyd? Stay away from this guy. He's got lawyers, money, connections. He's also got a temper and apparently a thing about proving himself. This isn't over. I know. You know something else? His lawyer seemed real interested in who you used to work for. Started asking questions about sealed records and classified employment. I shut it down, but she studied Eric. What did you really do for the CIA? Nothing I can talk about. Regina nodded slowly. Figures. Look, off the record, Logan York's been on our radar. Nothing we can prove, but his businesses attract certain kinds of attention. If he comes near you or your daughter again, you call me directly. She handed him a card. And Boyd, whatever you did to him in that garage before we showed up, it scared the shit out of him. I could see it in his eyes. After everyone left, Eric found Sadie in her room, sitting on her bed, hugging her knees. Is it over? She asked. Eric sat beside her. No, kiddo. It's just beginning. What did you do to him? In the garage. I talked to him. Dad. Eric looked at his daughter, this brave, smart, wonderful person he'd somehow helped create. I told him that if he ever came near you again, if he ever threatened you, scared you, or made you uncomfortable in any way, I would find him. And I would spend 11 hours teaching him about fear. 11 hours? It's how long it takes to break someone completely, to reach the core of who they are and shatter it. I learned that a long time ago, in places you'll never have to see. He took her hand. He believed me, Sadie. And that's good, because I wasn't lying. She leaned against his shoulder. I'm glad you're my dad. I'm glad you're my daughter. Outside, the sun was setting. Eric stared out the window and thought about Logan York's face in the garage, conscious for just 3 minutes before the sedative took him fully, long enough to hear Eric describe in clinical detail exactly what he was capable of, exactly what he'd done to men who thought they were tough, exactly how easy it would be to make Logan disappear. Logan had pissed himself. That was satisfying. But Eric knew it wasn't enough. Men like Logan didn't learn from fear. They nursed it, fed it, let it turn into rage and revenge. This was just round one. And Eric Boyd had spent 2 decades winning wars that no one knew had been fought. Round 2 will be different. Chapter 4, Patterns in the Dark. 48 hours after the home invasion, Nestor Holloway showed up at Eric's door with 2 coffees and a manila folder thick with paper. You're not going to like this, Nestor said, settling into Eric's kitchen table. Eric took the coffee and opened the folder. Inside were financial records, surveillance photos, police reports, and intelligence assessments that technically shouldn't exist outside classified servers. Logan York, Nestor began, is what we used to call a cleaner. Not the kind that removes bodies, the kind that removes evidence. His auto body shops? 4 of them are legitimate. The other 11 are money laundering operations. Eric flipped through bank statements showing suspicious patterns. Large cash deposits, wire transfers to shell companies, vehicles purchased and resold at peculiar prices. He works with a network, Nestor continued. Stolen cars come in, get new VINs, clean titles sold at auction. Insurance fraud on the side. But here's where it gets interesting. 3 months ago, Baltimore PD and FBI were building a RICO case. They had wiretaps, undercover buys, the works. Then the case fell apart. Key witness disappeared. Evidence went missing from a lockup. The lead detective, Harris Larson, ended up under investigation himself for corruption. Logan bought his way out. More than that, he has a fixer, guy named Reyes Love, former cop, turned private investigator / professional problem solver. Love specializes in making legal troubles vanish. He's connected Judges, prosecutors, cops. Greases the right palms, applies the right pressure. Eric studied a surveillance photo of Reyes Love. Late 40s, ex-military bearing, cold eyes. So Logan's not just a con artist. He's organized and paranoid, which is why he investigated you. He probably does background checks on everyone who gets close to him or Kitty. When he found walls around your file, he got curious. Then he got stupid and tried to push through. FBI counterintelligence has him flagged now. Will they move on him? Not their jurisdiction unless he's a national security threat. But Eric, Nestor leaned forward. The background check he ran on you? It was thorough. He knows you work Black Ops. He doesn't know details, but he knows enough to be scared. That home invasion? That was him trying to provoke you, trying to get you to overreact so he could use it against you. He's building a case, harassment, threats, maybe even a restraining order to keep you away from Kitty and Sadie. Eric felt cold calculation settle over him. He's trying to isolate them. That's my read. Kitty's vulnerable right now. Divorced, middle-aged, flattered by the attention of a younger, successful guy. Logan controls the finances, the house, probably her social circle too. If he can paint you as unstable, dangerous, he completes the isolation. And then what? Nestor's expression darkened. Then he has complete control. And men who need that kind of control, they don't stop at psychological games. Eric closed the folder. I need you to do something for me. Unofficial. Completely off book. I'm retired, Eric. I counsel kids now. You're retired from the agency. You're not retired from giving a damn about protecting innocence. Nestor sighed. What do you need? I need surveillance on Logan. His movements, his contacts, his routines. I need to know when he's vulnerable. And I need you to keep Kitty and Sadie safe while I work. While you work, Eric, what are you planning? Eric met his old handler's eyes. Logan York came into my home and threatened my daughter with a knife. He's a criminal, a predator, and a coward. And he's operating under the mistaken belief that I'm bound by rules. You are bound by rules. We all are. That's what separates us from the animals we used to hunt. Not anymore. For 22 years, I followed orders. I did terrible things in service of abstract goals. National security, strategic advantage, political expedience. I broke men who were fathers, sons, brothers. Some deserved it. Some probably didn't. But I did it anyway because that was the job. Eric stood, looking out his kitchen window at Sadie's basketball hoop in the driveway, at the normal suburban street where normal people live normal lives. But this isn't about national security, he continued quietly. This is about my daughter, my family. And for that, I don't need permission. I don't need oversight. I just need opportunity. Eric, I'm going to destroy him, Nestor. Legally, if possible. If not, he turned back. There are black sites around the world where men like Logan York disappear into holes and never come out. I can't access those anymore, but I learned their principles. I know how to make someone vanish in ways that don't leave forensic evidence. Jesus Christ, you're talking about murder. I'm talking about protection. Logan's already escalating. How long before he hurts Kitty? Before he decides Sadie's resistance needs to be punished? I've seen this pattern 100 times in different contexts. Men like him don't stop until they're stopped. Nestor was silent for a long moment. Then, surveillance only. I'll track his movements, report back. But Eric, if you cross the line into something illegal, something that puts you in prison, Sadie loses her father. Think about that before you do something you can't undo. After Nestor left, Eric spent the rest of the day planning. Not the physical aspects. He could neutralize Logan York in his sleep. But the psychological aspects, the strategy that would turn Logan's own criminal behavior against him. At 4 p.m., his phone rang. Kitty, Eric, we need to talk. About what happened. I'm listening. Logan's lawyer says you assaulted him, that you drugged him, tied him up, and threatened his life. Logan wants to press charges. I told him not to, that we need to de-escalate, but he's not interested in de-escalation. He's scared of you. After what you did, he thinks you're dangerous. I am dangerous, Kitty. That's what you could never accept. I'm dangerous to people who threaten my family. He didn't threaten anyone. He was trying to talk to Sadie. He broke into my home with a knife. That's not a conversation. That's a home invasion. Eric, please. I know you hate Logan, but he's the man I love. I need you to find a way to coexist peacefully. Eric felt something crack inside him. Not anger, but a deeper disappointment. Do you know what he does for a living? Really does. He owns auto body shops. He launders money. He traffics stolen vehicles. He commits insurance fraud on a scale that would put him away for 20 years if federal prosecutors could make a case stick. But they can't because he has a fixer who makes evidence disappear and witnesses recant. Silence. Then, that's ridiculous. Logan is a legitimate businessman. I'm sending you files. Police reports, financial analysis, everything Nestor dug up. Read them. Then call me back and tell me I'm wrong. I won't read your manufactured evidence. I won't help you destroy my marriage because you're jealous. This isn't jealousy. This is me trying to keep you safe. I don't need you to keep me safe. I have Logan for that. She hung up. Eric stared at his phone, feeling the weight of his own failure. He'd been a husband once, a partner. But the work had changed him, hollowed him out, left him with skills that made him excellent at violence and terrible at connection. Kitty had loved him once. Now she loved Logan York, or the idea of Logan York, the successful charmer who'd swept her into a lifestyle of luxury and attention. That night, Sadie came to his study where he was reviewing files. Mom called me, she said. She wanted to move in with her and Logan permanently. She says you're becoming unstable, that the stress of being a single father is making you paranoid. What did you tell her? That I'm not going anywhere. That I'm staying with you until college. And even then, you're still my home. She sat on the corner of his desk. But Dad? She believes him. She really thinks Logan's a good guy, and you're the problem. I know. Are you going to let him win? Eric looked at his daughter. Fierce, brave, loyal beyond measure. No, kiddo. I'm going to make him wish he'd never heard our name. Chapter 5. The Spider's Patience. For the next 2 weeks, Eric became a ghost in Logan York's life. He didn't follow him. Nestor handled that, providing daily reports on Logan's movements, meetings, patterns. Instead, Eric studied his prey, learning everything about how Logan operated, where he was vulnerable, what mattered to him. The picture that emerged was of a man driven by ego and greed in equal measure. Logan needed to be seen as successful, powerful, respected. His social media was full of expensive watches, luxury cars, photos with local politicians and business leaders. He donated publicly to charities while privately running schemes that defrauded insurance companies and trafficked stolen property. But the real revelation came from Nestor's surveillance of Logan's meetings with Reyes Love. They meet every Tuesday at a restaurant called the Mill House, Nestor reported. Always the same booth, always a 2-hour lunch. I got close enough to plant a listening device last week. He handed Eric an audio file on a USB drive. You'll want to hear Tuesday's conversation. Eric listened that night, headphones on, taking notes. Logan's voice, telling you this Eric Boyd situation is getting out of control. The guy drugged me, tied me up, started describing in detail how he could make me disappear. This isn't some desk jockey. This is a legitimate threat. Reyes Love, he was CIA retired. I made some calls. His files locked down tight, which means he was someone important. Black Ops, probably. Enhanced interrogation, maybe worse. Logan, so what do? I can't have this guy hanging over me, undermining Kitty, turning Sadie against me. It's affecting my relationship, my peace of mind. Reyes, you have 3 options. 1, you back off completely. Apologize. Make peace. Let Sadie do whatever she wants. But that makes you look weak. Logan, not happening. Reyes, 2, you go legal. Restraining order, custody battle. Tie him up in court for years. Expensive but effective. With his history, we can paint him as unstable, dangerous. PTSD, violent tendencies, unsafe around children. Logan, I like that. What's option 3? A pause. Then Reyes, carefully. We make the problem go away permanently. Eric's blood went cold. Logan, interested. What does that mean? Reyes, it means I know people who specialize in making problems disappear. Accidents happen. House fires. Car crashes. Random violence in the wrong part of town. It's expensive, 6 figures, but final. Logan, you're talking about murder. Reyes, I'm talking about solutions. But Logan, you need to understand what you're asking. This isn't like making evidence disappear or buying off a cop. This is crossing a line that you can't uncross. If you go this route, you're mine forever. I own you. Because if you ever turn on me, if you ever try to cut ties or rat me out, I'll make sure the trail leads straight back to your doorstep. Silence on the recording. Eric could almost feel Logan thinking, weighing his ego against his fear. Finally, let me think about it. I'll let you know next Tuesday. The recording ended. Eric sat in the darkness of his study, processing what he'd just heard. Logan York wasn't just a bully or a con artist. He was actively considering murder. Not in the heat of passion, but coldly, calculated, discussed over lunch like a business transaction. That changed everything. Eric called Nestor. Did you hear Tuesday's recording? I heard it. I also made copies and secured them in 3 different locations, just in case. That's a conspiracy to commit murder. It's a conversation. No actual planning. No money exchanged. No specific timeline. A decent lawyer would argue it was hypothetical discussion, especially with Logan's non-committal response. We need more to build a prosecutable case. Then we get more. Eric, you're not a cop anymore. You can't. I was never a cop. I was something else entirely. And right now, that's exactly what the situation needs. Eric's mind was racing, plans forming and reforming, strategies building on strategies. He'd spent 2 decades understanding how criminal organizations worked, how bad men made bad decisions, how systems could be infiltrated and turned against themselves. Logan York wanted to play in the shadows. Eric had lived in shadows darker than Logan could imagine. Here's what I need, Eric told Nestor. I need to get inside Logan's operation. I need to document his crimes with evidence that will hold up in court. And I need to do it in a way that doesn't get thrown out on technicalities. I'm going to give him exactly what he thinks he wants. Over the next week, Eric put his plan in motion. It started with Kitty. He called her, kept his tone measured and calm. You were right. I've been letting my past color my judgment. Logan scares me because I don't understand his world, business, legitimate success. I'm used to threats I can handle with violence. Logan's something different, and that makes me reactive. Kitty was silent, suspicious. What are you saying? I'm saying I want to try. For Sadie's sake, and honestly, for yours. You deserve to be happy. If Logan makes you happy, then I need to accept that. You're serious? I'd like to take you both to dinner. Neutral ground, public place. Let me apologize properly. See if we can find a way forward. Eric, I know it sounds crazy, but I spent 22 years making hard choices in impossible situations. This is just another one. Sadie needs her mother in her life. You need peace. Logan needs to stop seeing me as a threat. Maybe we can all get what we need. Kitty agreed, probably out of shock more than belief. They set a date for the following Friday at a steakhouse downtown. Expensive, public, the kind of place where violence was unthinkable. Eric prepared for that dinner like he'd prepared for operations in hostile territory. He rehearsed his lines, his body language, his expressions. He studied Logan's psychological profile, identifying triggers and vulnerabilities. By the time Friday arrived, he was ready to give the performance of his life. Logan arrived wearing a custom suit, his arm possessively around Kitty's waist. Kitty looked nervous but hopeful. Eric stood when they approached the table, extended his hand. Logan, Kitty, thanks for coming. Logan studied Eric's hand like it might be a trap. Then, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, he shook it. This is unexpected. Life is unexpected. Can we sit? Dinner was surreal. Eric played his role perfectly. Humble, apologetic, acknowledging his mistakes. He praised Logan's business acumen. He admitted that his CIA work had left him with trust issues and a tendency to see threats where none existed. He even thanked Logan for making Kitty happy. Logan ate it up. Eric could see the man's ego swelling, his guard dropping. By dessert, Logan was talking expansively about his businesses, his success, his plans for the future. You know, Eric, Logan said, loosened by wine and victory, I judged you too quickly. Kitty told me stories about your past, and I built up this idea that you were this dangerous guy. But you're just a regular person trying to do right by his kid. I respect that. I appreciate that, Logan. And hey, if you ever need work, I know retirement can be tough on a fixed income. I could use a guy with your background at one of my shops. Security, management, something low-key. The money's good. Eric smiled. That's generous. I might take you up on that. After dinner, outside the restaurant, Logan shook Eric's hand again, this time with genuine warmth. Let's do this again. Maybe we can actually be friends. I'd like that. In his truck, driving home, Eric allowed himself a cold smile. Logan had done exactly what Eric had known he'd do. He'd mistaken contrition for weakness, seen Eric's apology as surrender. His ego had overridden his caution, and now Logan York thought he'd won. Phase 1 complete. Chapter 6, The Trap Springs. Logan's job offer came through the following Monday. Site manager at one of his Richmond shops, $45,000 a year, benefits included. It was almost insulting. Eric's CIA pension was double that. But he accepted gratefully, played the role of grateful retiree who needed extra income. His first day was Wednesday. Logan personally showed him around the facility, introducing him to staff, explaining operations. Eric absorbed every detail while maintaining his mask of agreeable incompetence. The shop was legitimate on its surface. Damaged vehicles came in, repairs were made, insurance companies were billed. But Eric's trained eye caught the anomalies. Vehicles that stayed in closed bays for days without visible work. Parts orders that didn't match the repairs supposedly being done. Staff members who didn't interact with the regular crew, who came and went at odd hours. By the end of his first week, Eric had identified the scheme. Stolen cars were brought in after hours, stripped for parts, or given new VINs and documentation. The legitimate business provided cover, and the complex logistics made it hard to track any single irregular activity. It was elegant in its way. Logan had built a criminal enterprise hiding inside a legitimate business, layers of plausible deniability protecting him from investigation. But every system had weaknesses. Every operation left traces. Eric just had to find them. He started small, photographing VINs on cars that came through after hours, matching them against stolen vehicle databases using access codes he technically shouldn't still have, documenting the flow of parts and vehicles, building a timeline. He kept his evidence on an encrypted drive, added to it daily, built a case that would be undeniable. But he also built relationships. Logan's employees were largely decent people doing honest work, unaware of the criminal activity happening in their midst. The after-hours crew was different. Rough men with prison tattoos and careful eyes, the kind who'd worked in chop shops and stolen car rings their whole lives. Eric befriended them slowly, shared cigarettes on breaks, told carefully edited stories about his military service, easier to explain than CIA work. Gradually, he became part of the background, another aging blue-collar worker just trying to make a living. 3 weeks into his employment, one of the after-hours crew, a guy named Galen Gould who'd done time for Grand Theft Auto, started talking. "You ever wonder why Logan hired you?" Galen asked during a late-night smoke break. "Needed a manager, I guess." "Nah, Logan doesn't do anything without a reason. My guess. He wanted to keep an eye on you. That thing with you and his stepdaughter breaking into your house. Logan's paranoid about that. Thinks you're holding a grudge." Eric played dumb. "Ancient history. I'm just here for the paycheck." "That's smart. Because Logan? He's connected. You don't want to be on his bad side." Galen lowered his voice. "Guy knew, worked here a couple years back, started talking about the after-hours work to his girlfriend. Girlfriend mentioned it to the wrong person. Guy disappeared. Never found him. What are you saying?" "I'm saying Logan York takes care of problems. Permanently. So whatever beef you have with him, keep it buried." Eric processed this, adding it to his mental file. Logan wasn't just a white-collar criminal. He'd potentially committed murder to protect his operation. That changed the calculus, increased the stakes, but also provided another avenue for prosecution. That night, Eric met with Nestor at a coffee shop far from anywhere either of them might be recognized. "I've got documentation on 24 stolen vehicles processed through Logan's Richmond shop in the last month alone," Eric said, sliding a USB drive across the table. "VINs photographs, timestamps. Cross-reference them with stolen vehicle reports, and you'll have a pattern that's prosecutable. This is good work, but Eric, you're in deep now. If Logan finds out you're documenting his operation, you're not just getting fired. You're getting disappeared. I know. That's why we need to move soon. I can get more evidence, but time is running out. Logan's having another meeting with Reyes Love tomorrow. I need you to record it. The bug's still active in their usual booth. What are you expecting? Logan's been under pressure. The FBI flag on his background check, the increased scrutiny, me accepting his job offer when he probably expected me to refuse. It's all making him paranoid. Paranoid people make mistakes, and I want those mistakes on record. The next day was Tuesday. Eric worked his shift at the shop, played his role, and waited. At 7 p.m., Nestor sent him the audio file from Logan's lunch. Eric listened in his truck, parked in a grocery store lot. Logan's voice, agitated. I don't like this. Boyd's being too accommodating. Taking the job, being friendly, acting like everything's fine. It doesn't fit. Reyes Love. Maybe he really is trying to make peace. Not everyone's playing an angle. Logan, everyone's playing an angle. I learned that from you. And Boyd, there's something off about him. The way he watches people. The way he asks questions that sound innocent but aren't. Last week, he was asking Galen about our after-hours operations. Nothing direct, just casual conversation, but Galen noticed. Reyes, you think he's investigating you? Logan, I think he's smarter than he pretends to be, and that means he's dangerous. Reyes, so what do you want to do? A long pause. Then Logan, quietly, I want you to activate option 3. The permanent solution we discussed. I want Eric Boyd gone. Eric's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Reyes, you understand what you're asking? Once this starts, there's no stopping it. And it's $200,000, cash, non-refundable. Half up front. Logan, I understand. How long? Reyes, 2 weeks. Maybe less. It'll look like an accident. Random violence. These things happen. Logan, do it. The recording ended. Eric sat in his truck, processing. Logan had just ordered his murder. Not in the heat of anger, but coldly, with calculation. And he'd done it on a recording that Eric now possessed. He called Nestor. We have him. Conspiracy to commit murder. Conspiracy to commit first-degree homicide. With the stolen vehicle evidence, the witness testimony from Galen, and this recording, we can build a case that will put Logan away for decades. We need to take this to the FBI immediately. You're in danger. Not yet. I need something else. Something that ties Logan to his past crimes, that shows a pattern. One more piece. Eric, the man just hired someone to kill you. I know. That's why I need to move fast. That night, Eric broke into Logan's house. It wasn't difficult. His CIA training included covert entry, and Logan's security system was expensive but predictable. Eric waited until 2 a.m., when Logan and Kitty were asleep, then used a bypass device on the alarm and entered through a basement window. He had 2 hours before dawn, before anyone would wake. He moved through the house like a ghost, searching for Logan's home office. He found on the second floor a wood-paneled room with a mahogany desk, locked filing cabinets, a wall safe. The safe took him 15 minutes to crack, using tools and techniques he wasn't supposed to remember. Inside, he found exactly what he needed: financial records for Logan's businesses, showing the real numbers behind the cookbooks, offshore accounts holding millions in laundered money, contracts with criminal enterprises across the East Coast, and, most damning, a ledger documenting payoffs to police, judges, prosecutors, everyone Logan had bought over the years. Eric photographed everything with a digital camera, working quickly but carefully. This was the keystone, proof not just of Logan's crimes, but of the systemic corruption he'd built to protect himself. He was repacking the safe when he heard footsteps in the hall. Eric froze, calculating distances and options. The office door was closed, locked from the inside. Whoever was out there might just pass by. He moved to the window, ready to exit if necessary. The doorknob turned. Locked. Then a key scraped in the lock. Logan's voice groggy. Kitty, I told you that's my office. You don't need to. The door opened. Logan stood there in pajama pants and a t-shirt, looking confused and half asleep. He saw Eric standing by the safe, saw the open lock, saw the camera. For a second, neither man moved. Then Logan's face transformed from confusion to rage. "You son of a—" He lunged. Eric sidestepped, caught Logan's arm, used the man's own momentum to send him crashing into the desk. Logan recovered fast, grabbed a letter opener, came at Eric with wild, desperate aggression. This was the moment. This was where Eric could end it, break Logan's arm, his neck, make it look like self-defense. He'd done worse to men who'd done less. But as Logan swung the letter opener, Eric saw past the violence to the man beneath. Scared, cornered, lashing out because his world was collapsing. Eric disarmed him with a wrist lock, put him face first against the wall, and leaned in close. "Listen very carefully," Eric whispered. "I have recordings of you ordering my murder. I have documentation of every stolen car you've moved through your shops in the last month. I have photographs of your financial records showing money laundering and bribery. And tomorrow morning, all of it goes to the FBI, the Virginia State Police, and every news outlet in the state." Logan struggled, cursed. Eric applied pressure until he stopped. "You have one chance," Eric continued. "One opportunity to minimize the damage. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., you're going to walk into FBI headquarters and confess everything. Every crime, every payoff, every dirty deal. You're going to give them Reyes love and everyone in your network. And you're going to plead guilty to every charge they bring. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, I'll make sure every inmate in whatever prison you end up in knows you're a child predator. I'll manufacture evidence, plant stories, destroy your reputation so completely that you won't survive a month inside. And because I'm offering you a deal, cooperate fully, testify against everyone, and maybe you get 15 years instead of life." "You're bluffing." "Am I? You've seen what I can do. You know what I am. Do you really want to test me?" Eric released him, stepped back. Logan slumped against the wall, looking defeated. "Kitty," Logan whispered. "She'll hate me. She'll hate you anyway. But at least this way, you might see daylight again before you're 70. Eric left the same way he'd entered, vanishing into the pre-dawn darkness. Behind him, Logan York sat in his expensive office in his expensive house, staring at the evidence of his own stupidity. The trap had sprung. Now came the reckoning. Chapter 7. Collapse. Logan York didn't show up at FBI headquarters the next morning. Eric hadn't really expected him to. Men like Logan didn't surrender, didn't accept defeat gracefully. Instead, they fought, flailed, made desperate moves that only dug them deeper. At 10 a.m., Eric's phone rang. Detective Regina Mitchell. "Boyd, we need to talk. Logan York filed a complaint this morning. Says you broke into his house, assaulted him, and threatened his life. He's got bruises, witnesses, and he's pushing for your arrest. I was home all night. My daughter can confirm. Your daughter who hates Logan and would lie to protect you? I was home all night," Eric repeated calmly. "Logan's making false accusations because he knows I've been documenting his criminal activities. He's trying to discredit me before evidence comes to light." "Evidence of what?" "Money laundering, auto theft rings, bribery and corruption of public officials, and conspiracy to commit my murder." Silence on the other end. "Then, you'd better come down to the station and bring a lawyer." Eric spent the next 6 hours being questioned, his story picked apart, his evidence examined. He'd prepared for this, had everything organized and documented. The recordings of Logan's meetings with Reyes Love. The photographs from the Richmond shop showing stolen vehicles. The financial documents from Logan's safe, authenticated by forensic analysis. By 4 p.m., Detective Mitchell's attitude had shifted from skeptical to fascinated. "This is... Jesus, Boyd, this is enough to bring down half the criminal network in Richmond. How long have you been working on this?" 3 weeks actively, but I've been watching Logan for months. "And the home invasion? You really broke in." "Logan invited me to work at his shop. I accepted. While working there, I observed criminal activity and documented it. Last night, I received credible intelligence that Logan had hired someone to kill me. I made the tactical decision to confront him directly and offer him a chance to cooperate before more people got hurt. It was spin, careful phrasing that acknowledged the break-in while framing it as justified. Regina saw through it, but she also saw the bigger picture. I need to bring the FBI into this. And Virginia State Police. This goes beyond my jurisdiction. I understand. By nightfall, Logan York's world was burning. FBI agents raided his businesses, his home, his attorney's office. Reyes Love was arrested, tried to flee to Canada. Assets were frozen. Employees were questioned. The carefully constructed facade of legitimacy crumbled under coordinated law enforcement pressure. Eric watched it unfold on the news from his living room. Sadie beside him, eating popcorn. Is Mom okay? Sadie asked. Physically, yes. Emotionally, she's going to need time. Kitty had called 3 times, hysterical, accusing Eric of destroying her life. He'd listened, let her vent, offered support she'd angrily rejected. Eventually, she'd stop calling. Eventually, she'd need help. And when she did, Eric would be there, not as a husband, but as the father of her child, as someone who still cared about her well-being even if their marriage was long dead. He really tried to have you killed, Sadie said quietly. He did. Are you scared? Of Logan? No. Reyes Love is in custody. Logan's too busy dealing with his own problems to threaten anyone. And even if he tried, he's being watched by every federal agency in Virginia. Not what I meant. Are you scared of what you did? Of how far you went? Eric looked at his daughter, this remarkable person who asked the hard questions. Yes. I crossed lines I swore I'd left behind. I used skills and methods that I promised myself I'd never use again. And part of me, he trailed off, searching for honesty. Part of me enjoyed it. The planning, the execution, the victory. That scares me more than Logan ever did. Sadie leaned against his shoulder. You protected me. That's all that matters. It's not that simple. Maybe it should be. The next morning, Eric met with Nestor at their usual coffee shop. His old handler looked tired, older than his 60 years. The Bureau wants to talk to you officially, Nestor said. They're impressed with your evidence gathering, but they have questions about methods. Specifically about that home invasion. I'm willing to cooperate fully. They're also offering you a consulting position. Apparently, you're the first retired operator they've seen who can still work an undercover operation this complex. They want to know if you'd be interested in helping train their agents. Eric sipped his coffee, considering. Tell them thank you, but no. I'm done with that world. Are you? Because from where I sit, you just spent a month living in it. This was different. This was personal. And the next time something personal happens, the next time someone threatens Sadie, or you, or anyone you care about, you're going to dust off your old skills again. Eric didn't have an answer. Because the truth was he'd felt alive these past weeks in a way he hadn't since retirement. The planning, the strategy, the careful manipulation of his target. It had all come back so naturally, so easily. He was good at this. Better than he was at being a civilian, at building a normal life. I can't go back, Eric said finally. I won't. Sadie needs a father, not an operator. Then be both. Be the father who can protect his daughter because he has skills that most fathers don't. There's no shame in that, Eric. Chapter 8, 11 hours. The call came 2 weeks later, just as Eric was beginning to think the crisis had passed. It was from Reyes Love's lawyer, Maxwell Allison, the same slick operator who'd represented Logan during the home invasion incident. Mr. Boyd, my client would like to speak with you. Before his arraignment tomorrow, before any plea agreements are finalized. He says he has information you'll want to hear. About what? About Logan York and about certain plans that were already set in motion before my client's arrest. Eric felt cold wash over him. What plans? The kind that don't stop just because one man is in custody. Mr. Boyd, Reyes Love hired contractors. They were paid half up front before his arrest. The job is still active. Where's Sadie? Eric was already moving, phone clamped between shoulder and ear, grabbing his gun from the safe. At school, according to your daughter's social media. But Mr. Boyd? These contractors are professional. They'll wait for the right opportunity. And once they start, they don't stop until the job is done or they're dead. Set up the meeting. I'll be there in an hour. Eric called Sadie's school, had her pulled from class into the principal's office with instructions not to leave until he arrived. Then he called Nestor, got him mobilizing FBI protection. Then he drove to the federal detention center where Reyes Love was being held. The man who met him in the interview room looked nothing like the tough ex-cop from surveillance photos. Reyes Love was haggard, diminished, facing federal charges that would put him away for decades. But his eyes were still sharp, still calculating. The contractors are called the North Carolina Three, Reyes said without preamble. Ex-military, special forces, worked private security before going freelance. They specialize in making deaths look accidental. Car crashes, home invasions gone wrong, muggings. They were paid $100,000 up front to eliminate you within 2 weeks. That deadline is in 4 days. Why are you telling me this? Because Logan's in here with me, and he's singing like a canary, giving up everyone, trying to cut himself a deal. He told the feds that I was the one who planned everything, that he was just following my advice. He's hanging all of this on me. Reyes leaned forward. So, I'm returning the favor. Logan thinks he's clever, thinks he can talk his way out of this. But those contractors? They don't care that we're arrested. They have a job, they've been paid, they'll finish it. And when they do, when you're dead and it looks like an accident, Logan's defense becomes stronger. No victim to testify, no witness to contradict his story. You're giving me their names, locations, everything, in exchange for my testimony, counting more than Logan's. In exchange for the prosecutors knowing that I'm cooperating fully while he's trying to play games. Eric studied the man across from him. Reyes Love was a predator, a criminal who'd made his living fixing problems for bad men. But he was also pragmatic, and right now, his pragmatism meant giving Eric the tools to survive. Tell me everything. Reyes Love did. Names, descriptions, known addresses, operational tactics. The North Carolina Three, Jacques Cardenas, Norman Rasmussen, and Barrett McKay, were based outside Durham. Former Army Rangers, dishonorable discharges, a string of suspicious deaths in their wake that no one had been able to prove were murders. They'll surveil you first, Reyes explained. Learn your patterns, your vulnerabilities. Then they'll strike when you're alone, when it can look accidental. They're patient, professional, and very good at their jobs. Not good enough? Eric said quietly. He left the detention center with a full dossier on the contractors compiled from Reyes Love's records. By the time he reached Sadie's school, FBI agents were already there, securing the perimeter. Eric found his daughter in the principal's office, looking annoyed more than scared. Dad, what's going on? They pulled me out of chemistry. Pack a bag. We're going somewhere safe for a few days. Is this about Logan? Logan hired people to kill me before he got arrested. They're still out there, still active. Until they're caught, you and I need to be careful. Sadie's expression shifted from annoyance to fear to something harder. They're going to come after us. They're going to try. So what do we do? Eric looked at his daughter, seeing his own resolve reflected back. We don't hide. We don't run. We set a trap and we wait. The property Eric chose was a cabin 3 hours west in the mountains near Shenandoah National Park. He'd bought it years ago with agency earnings, a place to disappear if he ever needed to. It was isolated, defensible, and most importantly, it had security systems that would make Fort Knox jealous. They arrived after dark, Sadie carrying her overnight bag, Eric carrying considerably more hardware. Inside, he activated the perimeter sensors, checked the cameras, inventoried his weapons. The cabin had 2 entrances, bulletproof windows, reinforced doors, and enough ammunition to hold off a small army. This is like a spy movie, Sadie said, trying to sound brave. This is survival, and you're going to stay in the panic room until I tell you it's safe. The what? Eric showed her the hidden door behind a bookshelf, the reinforced steel room beneath the cabin with its own air supply, communications, and emergency exit. If shooting starts, you go here. You lock the door and you don't come out until you hear my voice or the FBI's. I'm not hiding while you fight. Yes, you are, because I can't do what I need to do if I'm worried about protecting you. This is how you help me, by being safe. Sadie wanted to argue, but she saw something in Eric's face that stopped her. Okay, but you come back, Dad. You promise me. I promise. That night, Eric sat in the darkness of his cabin and waited. The North Carolina Three would come. Of that, he was certain. Reyes Love's information was solid, and Eric had made himself an obvious target. A lone man in an isolated cabin, apparently unaware of the threat. It was perfect bait. His only advantage was that he knew they were coming. The sensors triggered at 3:17 a.m. 3 heat signatures approaching from different directions, professional spacing, textbook tactical movement. Eric watched them on his monitors, noting their equipment, their coordination, their confidence. They thought they were hunting a retired analyst. They had no idea they were walking into the lair of a predator who'd spent 2 decades perfecting the art of psychological and physical warfare. Eric let them get close. Let them breach his outer perimeter, disable his obvious security measures, approach the cabin with growing confidence. Then, when they were committed, when all 3 were inside his kill zone, he activated the real defenses. Floodlights erupted from hidden positions, blinding the contractors. Speakers blared recordings of police sirens, military communications, creating confusion and disorientation. And Eric himself emerged from a concealed position with his rifle, wearing night vision goggles that let him see perfectly while they were blind and panicking. "Drop your weapons." Eric's voice boomed over the chaos. "You're surrounded. FBI, drop your weapons and get on the ground." It was a lie, but a convincing one. The contractors, suddenly exposed and blinded, thought they'd walked into a federal trap. 2 of them immediately dropped their weapons and complied. The third, Jacques Cardenas, the team leader, tried to run. Eric shot him in the leg. Non-fatal, but completely incapacitating. The man went down screaming. Within minutes, Eric had all 3 contractors secured, zip-tied, and sitting against a tree in his driveway. He called the FBI, gave them coordinates, and then he sat down in front of his captives and smiled. "My name is Eric Boyd. 22 years, CIA Black Ops, specialized in enhanced interrogation. You gentlemen made a mistake taking a contract on me." "We're not saying shit without lawyers," Norman Rasmussen muttered. "That's fine. You don't have to talk to me, but you're going to listen." Eric leaned forward. "See, you're facing attempted murder of a federal witness. That's life in prison, no parole. But I can help you. I can testify that you cooperated, that you provided information, that you were just hired contractors who didn't know the full situation. All you have to do is tell me everything about Logan York, Reyes Love, and anyone else involved in this operation." "We don't know anything," Barrett McKay said. "We got hired, we got paid, we do the job." "That's it, is it? Because I have 11 hours before the FBI arrives. And I can make those 11 hours very educational for all of us." Eric pulled out a small case, opened it to reveal medical instruments, scalpels, needles, syringes of various chemicals. The contractor's eyes widened. "I'm not going to torture you," Eric said calmly. "That's illegal, immoral, and honestly, unnecessary. What I'm going to do is worse. I'm going to sit here and describe, in clinical detail, every technique I've used to break men like you. I'm going to explain exactly how psychological pressure works, how fear compounds, how the anticipation of pain is often worse than pain itself. And then I'm going to do absolutely nothing except wait and let your own minds destroy you." He settled into his chair. "Let's start with Jacques. Tell me about your time in Afghanistan. Tell me about the things you did that led to your dishonorable discharge. Tell me about the nightmares you still have, the guilt you bury under bravado and violence." Jacques Cardenas's face went pale. "How did you?" "I read people. It's what I do. I look at you and I see a man who killed civilians, probably by accident, maybe not. I see someone who drinks too much, who can't hold a relationship, who takes contracts like this because he stopped caring about consequences." "Fuck you," Jacques spat. "And Norman, former ranger, expert marksman, 3 confirmed kills in Iraq. But there's more, isn't there? Something happened in Fallujah. Something that ended your military career and made you a ghost afterward." Norman was shaking now. "Stop," he whispered. "Why? I'm just talking, just describing what I see. Barrett, you're different. You're the psychopath of the group. No guilt, no conscience, just professional pride in being good at killing. But even you have fears. Being caught, being imprisoned, losing control. Right now, you're calculating odds, wondering if I'm bluffing, wondering how much I really know." Eric stood, walked in a slow circle around the three men. Here's what's going to happen. Over the next 11 hours, I'm going to sit here and talk. I'm going to tell you stories about interrogations I've conducted. I'm going to describe the moment when a subject breaks, when they realize there's no escape, when they give up everything. And you're going to sit there, tied up, unable to stop me, unable to escape, just listening. In your mind's beautiful, terrible, fragile things are going to do all the work for me. He sat back down. Let's begin with a story about a man in Yemen. Chapter 9. The Surgeon's Triumph. The FBI arrived at 2:47 p.m., exactly 11 hours and 30 minutes after Eric's call. They found the three contractors sitting against the tree where Eric had left them, unharmed physically but profoundly shaken psychologically. All three were babbling confessions, desperate to talk, to be anywhere other than in Eric Boyd's presence. Jacques Cardenas had broken first, at hour 3, describing in detail every contract he'd taken through Reyes Love, every death he'd arranged, every person he'd intimidated or harmed. Norman Rasmussen lasted until hour 5 before he started crying and confessing to things Eric hadn't even asked about. Barrett McKay, the psychopath, held out until hour 9 before his confidence cracked and he joined the chorus of confession. Eric hadn't touched them, hadn't threatened them directly. He'd simply talked, told stories, asked questions, and let their own guilt and fear do the rest. It was a technique he perfected over 2 decades. Psychological pressure, so precise it left no marks, no evidence of coercion, just broken men eager to cooperate. FBI agent Regina Mitchell approached Eric where he sat on his cabin's porch, drinking coffee and looking exhausted. "What did you do to them?" she asked quietly. "I talked. They listened. For 11 hours? Give or take. Boyd, we're going to need statements. From you, from them. And we're going to need to know exactly what happened here. Self-defense. They came to kill me. I defended my home. I restrained them using reasonable force. While waiting for law enforcement, we had conversations. They chose to confess. That's all that happened." Regina studied him, seeing through the careful phrasing to the truth beneath. "You're one cold son of a bitch, you know that. I'm a father protecting his daughter. Where is Sadie?" "Safe. Inside. Want to check on her yourself?" They found Sadie in the panic room, reading a book on her phone, looking bored more than scared. She brightened when she saw Eric. "Is it over?" "It's over." She hugged him tightly. Over her head, Eric met Regina's eyes. The detective nodded slowly, understanding passing between them. Whatever Eric had done, however he'd done it, the result was 3 dangerous criminals off the streets and a cascade of confessions that would likely close a dozen unsolved cases. The next 2 weeks were a blur of statements, depositions, and legal proceedings. Logan York, faced with overwhelming evidence and multiple witnesses, pleaded guilty to all charges: money laundering, auto theft, insurance fraud, conspiracy to commit murder. The judge sentenced him to 35 years in federal prison, no possibility of parole for 20. Reyes Love got 40 years for being the architect of multiple murders. The North Carolina 3 each received life sentences without parole. And Eric Boyd went back to his quiet life in suburban Virginia, cooking pancakes for his daughter and trying to pretend he was just a normal single father. But he wasn't normal. Couldn't be. The events of the past months had proven that. A month after Logan's sentencing, Kitty called. Her voice was small, broken. "Eric, can I come over? I need to talk to you." "Of course." She arrived an hour later, looking 10 years older than she had before Logan. She'd lost weight. Her hair was graying, her eyes haunted. Eric made tea, gave her space, waited. "I was so stupid," she finally said. "I believed him. About everything. About you being the problem, about him being legitimate, about building a new life. And instead, I almost got you killed. Got Sadie endangered. I'm so sorry, Eric. I'm so sorry. I know. Can you ever forgive me?" Eric thought about forgiveness, about the nature of mistakes and consequences. "Kitty, I forgive you, but I can't be what you need me to be. I can't be your husband again, can't be your stability. You need to find that in yourself. I know. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. Who you really are. What you did to protect Sadie, to protect me even though I didn't deserve it. You're not the cold, empty man I left. You're a good person who does hard things because someone has to. I'm not good. I'm just a father. That's the same thing. After she left, Eric found Sadie in her room, doing homework. She looked up, smiled. Mom, okay? Getting there. Slowly. Are you okay? Eric sat on the edge of her bed. I don't know, kiddo. I did things these past months that I swore I'd never do again. I hurt people, manipulated them, used skills that should have stayed buried. And the worst part? I was good at it. Really good. You protected me. That makes you good. It's not that simple. Why not? Bad people do bad things because they want to hurt others. Good people do hard things to protect the ones they love. You're good, Dad. Even when you're scary, even when you do things that make other people uncomfortable, you're good. I know that. Mom knows that now. And maybe someday you'll know it too. Eric hugged his daughter, felt her arms around him, solid and real and perfect. Whatever he was, operator, interrogator, father, he'd kept her safe. That had to count for something. 3 months later, Nestor Holloway called with interesting news. The FBI wants to hire you as a consultant, teaching interrogation techniques, psychological operations, all the stuff you're so unnaturally good at. It's a legitimate offer, good pay, no field work required. Tell them thanks, but no. You sure? It's a chance to use your skills for good, too. I'm using my skills for good right now. Raising Sadie, being present, being normal, or as normal as I can be. All right, but Eric, if you change your mind, or if you ever need anything, you call me. You're one of the best operators I ever ran. The world is worse without people like you in it. The world is better when people like me don't need to exist. Eric hung up and went to the kitchen, where Sadie was making dinner, spaghetti, her specialty. They, together, talked about her day at school, laughed at a stupid video she showed him on her phone. It was normal, mundane, perfect. And if sometimes, late at night, Eric lay awake and remembered the look on Logan York's face when he realized he'd made a fatal mistake, or the way the contractors had broken under nothing but words and time, or the cold satisfaction of seeing evil men brought to justice. Well, that was between him and his conscience. He was Eric Boyd, father, retired operator, the man who'd spent 22 years in darkness so others could live in light. And he'd won. Epilogue. 5 years later, Sadie Boyd graduated from Georgetown University with honors. Her father sat in the audience, proud and present, just another dad in the crowd. Logan York was serving his sentence in a federal penitentiary in Pennsylvania. Kitty Cross had remarried, this time to a genuinely kind accountant who treated her well. And Eric Boyd? He coached youth basketball, volunteered at the VA, and lived quietly in his ranch house in suburban Virginia. His neighbors thought he was a boring retired government worker. They had no idea about the demons he'd faced, the battles he'd won, the skills that lay dormant but never forgotten. And that was exactly how Eric wanted it. Because the most dangerous men are the ones who look harmless. The most effective warriors are the ones who no longer need to fight. And the best fathers are the ones who will do absolutely anything, legal or not, moral or not, easy or impossible, to protect their children. Eric Boyd had been all of those things, and he'd do it all again in a heartbeat.
This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.